choose to resist the scroll. Reclaim our minds, sharpen our focus, one thought at a time. And maybe, just maybe, we turn this whole system against itself and break free from this matrix. Now, there's this phenomena recently that is seriously grinding my gears. Lately, it seems like every single studio is obsessed with pushing this $80 price tag. Borderlands 4, Call of Duty, Ubisoft, of course. It's like they've all made this secret blood pact to make $80 the new $60, and they're not even sorry about it. Randy Pitchford, the CEO, the boss of Gearbox Software, literally said to a fan who was complaining, telling him that Borderlands 4 better not cost $80, seriously replied with, "If you're a real fan, you will find a way to make it happen."
What the hell no?
Now, what I've just told you is out of context, but even given the context and where Randy was actually coming from, it's still a wild thing to say, especially given that the internet sometimes has no mercy for nuance. Where Randy was coming from was basically that when he was a kid and there was something that he really wanted to buy, like say Nintendo 64 or whatever, Super Mario, doesn't matter. He moved heaven and earth to make it happen, despite how expensive it was at the time and how it was simply out of his price range. So you tell me if that bit of context actually makes things better. So now Randy's got me asking myself, am I really a real fan? Are you a real fan? Or are we real analysts? Let's break this thing down. You see, instead of justifying the price with logic, they're just going for your feelings now. It's all about support the devs. Real fans don't complain. Games cost more. And that, analysts, is simply not economics. That's called guilt tripping with corporate PR lip gloss. And this is actually what Neil Postman warned us about in chapter 2 of his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. He said that in every era, media changes how we decide what is true. You see, in the printing age, companies had to prove their case. They had to give you spreadsheets, logic, and reason. But in the digital age, in a social media, trailer-driven, influencer-hyped age, they don't need to convince you. They simply need to emotionally condition you. You're not being informed. You're being played. Now, there's this counter argument and counterpoint that seems to come up often when people actually complain and say, why are we making $80 the new $60? And it usually goes like this. Games were $50 back in the early 2000s. But if you adjust for inflation, that's more than $80 today. Sounds smart, doesn't it? Until you realize a simple, overlooked fact that back in the early 2000s, games back then didn't have day one patches, live service content, pay-to-win mechanics, deluxe editions, $25 DLCs, season passes, battle passes, booster packs. They weren't constantly trying to sell you more after your purchase. So no, we're not just paying for the same game at modern prices. More accurately, we are paying more for less games and more for monetization. So then back to the thesis of our discussion, analysts. Why the obsession with the $80 price tag? Now, let's be real. AAA game budgets are bloated as hell. They spend tens of millions on things like giant open worlds that feel empty, 15-minute cinematic intros with Oscar-tier music, marketing trailers that cost more than some indie games. And half the time, the product launches with bugs anyway. So what do? Do they do the sensible thing and scale down? Of course not. They scale up the price tag and expect you to swallow it. And let's be honest, guys, Call of Duty has been pushing that ceiling for a while now, with Modern Warfare 3 offering in-game cosmetics like is it the King's Grove or the Kong Grove? The Kong Glove. The Kong Glove for $80. That's an in-game cosmetic. $80. And now with Call of Duty 2025, the standard edition might just launch at that, $80 flat. And Ubisoft, of course, they're in on it. Assassin's Creed Shadow, Star Wars Outlaws, all pushing higher base editions, with the deluxe versions soaring even higher. You see, analysts, in the past, pricing was justified by functionality. You paid more because the thing cost more to make, and they would show you why. But now, it's justified by narrative. You're not paying for the product. You are paying for the story around the product. And let's get into this thing. Let's really break this thing down. In the past, companies had to prove value. Here's the length. Here's the content. The production cost. And now, what they're doing is they are framing the value. Support the devs. Be a real fan. This is the future of gaming. None of that tells you exactly what you're getting from the product. It just tells you what kind of person you are if you don't buy it, or if you buy it. That's what we call narrative-based pricing. And that right there is the media shift that Postman warned us about. And the scary part is, most gamers aren't even asking